weakness that you wanted to give into, because the booger had talked you into whatever it was, whatever pleasures he had offered. You wouldn't give in to the weakness that you wanted to give into, because the booger had talked you into whatever it was, whatever pleasures he had offered you as a reward for your listening to him and blocking your mind. No, no, the vehicle blocked the mind, and the mind is not. The mind can't push through if you don't use the vehicle to force it through. That's the reason you're in a vehicle, is to gain strength. In other words, without the vehicle and without the booger, your mind would know those things, but he has no tool to work with, and he hasn't become strong. He has no potency. So the best thing you're doing is maintaining that mind consciously all the time. If you maintain it consciously all the time, there's no room for weakness. It's only when other things come in to block you from what you know. We've taught you the ways of the next level. We've taught you what's improper conduct. You know all those things, but you have to close your brain to it in order to permit yourself to weaken in those areas. Now, the mind isn't, I don't know the word acquiesce. We don't use that word with you. You like that word? The mind isn't in cahoots with the booger. The brain, booger has seized upon an opportunity where the vehicle would like to give in to what the booger is conning it into. And so the vehicle says, well, I think I'll block out the mind, because if I don't block out the mind, then I can't give in to this. So you become unconscious of what you really know for the period of time that you give into that weakness. And that's your choice to block that mind. And it's your mind made up of what you have been taught that you are choosing to block in order to give into that weakness.
That's really a good explanation right there. You've got to remember that you have enough strength. You came into this task with enough strength to overcome anything. It's just that it wasn't as strong as it could have been, because you all graduated from another garden. And it took a lot of strength to do that.
That's right. But
it's just that you're trying to gain more strength
in areas of your weakness.
To overcome.
You're sent to a tough garden, because the next level wants you to become stronger and to be able to function better. And so, what better favor could they do to you than send you down to a tough garden where your weaknesses that may not have been recognized to any significant degree of weakness prior to coming to a tough garden. But in a tough garden, all those weaknesses are really spotlighted and put under the microscope. And so this is giving you an opportunity to go back with an armor that you didn't have before, strength that you didn't have before, and that you probably couldn't have gained without this type of experience.
And it's preparing you for other tasks where it needs strength. And you've got to be able to not be calm.
You could have done only tasks before where you were very protected, that didn't require much strength of resistance against lower forces and interference.
Right, and the ones who have out-of-craft tasks need that particular strength to stay on the right track. Otherwise, they wouldn't be given an out-of-craft task.
That kind of strength. And those same tests of weakness are always amplified too by in-craft tasks, the weaknesses that are needed the most.
And if you're only capable of doing, if you're not, there are some individuals who can't do two things at the same time without it causing them problems. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do an out-of-craft task, but you can't. If you do an out-of-craft task, you can't do any in-craft things. which is like that booger's making you believe that, which is so. If you don't want to ever say, I can't do anything. We don't want you to do something unless you've been taught how to do it. But don't let the booger con you into thinking that you can only do this, but you can't do that. That's a con job.
It sure is.
No, it's basic.
In other words, everything that you are becoming aware of that you're weak in, we're not just talking about areas that you have given into, but weaknesses even in areas that you need to develop are con jobs. In other words, somebody can say, I've never been any good at taking responsibility, or I've never been any good at really being consistent enough to gain respect. That's listening to the con job of the book in cahoots with the vehicle. In other words, it's not only weaknesses that you were tempted in of prior weaknesses and you failed in. It's weaknesses, even anything that would put you down, anything that would make you less than a totally serviceable tool at the next level is a weakness. And some of those weaknesses are simply areas that you need to develop in instead of just be seen as not falling in, because you're constantly falling in if you haven't developed them. You see what we're saying? You're constantly falling in those areas. You may not have even recognized that you're falling in those areas because you've just recognized the blanket statement from the book, I'm no good in those areas. You know?
Doesn't mean you have to learn how to use a sewing machine
No.
or a typewriter. Those are all human skills, but we're talking about
Being responsible.
Aren't you needed in the room?
Okay.
If they had gone back, I thought that she.
I could use an example from that meeting with an individual. Their Rudy was responding to somebody else that said about English. And he said, well, what do you do if somebody comes up from behind you? And it wasn't, what I said wasn't complete, but I wanted to check my answer to him was, I felt like there was kind of defensiveness to something that had come in that would have them, not just their roadie, but anybody who would have that kind of response of not taking responsibility for being in control of the booger. And that was missed on the report, but it's something that keeps coming up, and I wondered if maybe I was out of place for saying it. Because if somebody can say, well, I may have a problem with humor, but what can I do if somebody comes up behind me? Do you know what I'm saying?
Give us a karate.
Familiarity.
Yeah. And I had said that I felt like there was something there that makes you feel victimized rather than being responsible for your own actions.
Well, being victimized is always a cop-out. Because I don't have to be victimized. Anybody comes up behind me, I can turn around and give them a dirty look and let them know that I certainly don't like that kind of familiarity. But if I turn around and give them a smile, and but inside I'm saying, I wish you didn't do that, then I'm not pushing through. I really kind of liked it, even though I kind of wished I didn't like it. You know, or I'm yielding too much to it's like some people on their out-of-craft tasks still think that they have to act like humans instead of play act like humans. And there's all the difference in the world. Because when you're play acting like a human at your out-of-craft task, you're only doing the you're only pretending in the ways necessary in order to do a good job of the task. But there's still nothing wrong with everybody at that out-of-craft task thinking about you. That individual is a little more separate. That individual doesn't like to play these chummy games, doesn't like to listen to the dirty jokes. There's nothing wrong with that. Even though you're not going to go preaching a righteous sermon and make them feel like they're dirt, all you're doing is just letting them know that you don't care to slap on the back or the fanny or are to be that kind of familiar, and you don't like them being that way with you. And the faster an out-of-craft task person establishes that proper relationship with them, that lets their employer and the others know that they don't like that kind of familiarity, but at the same time do such a good job that they'll be respected for their performance. And then they will even respect the fact that they don't like to play at these little lower games.
I know hospital personnel very, very well. And I know that doctors in particular will come up and start massaging your shoulders and say, "Oh, you're so tense," or something like that. And I've seen people, not just myself, say, "I don't like for you to do that, and I wish you wouldn't do that." And or jump up from the chair and turn around and get a safe distance from them, because they are trying to feel you out to see how far you will go. And don't think for 1 minute that you're something special and that they like you so much they can't resist to keep your hands off of you. That is not right. That nobody in the hospital is that way. They have usually, and don't think I'm being suspicious, because I spent a quarter of a century in the hospital with people, and I know them well enough from the time I was 17 years old, and I know how they treat each other. And nurses don't usually care that much about people they work for. And doctors don't either, unless they have some motive in mind. You see what I'm saying? Friends don't usually get that chummy with you if you let them know what you like and what you don't like. I had one doctor tell me a dirty joke one time, and he said, "I'll never tell you another dirty joke again," because I didn't like it. Now, that was long before I had begun to awaken. I never did like dirty jokes. I didn't like foul language. And the doctors all knew that I didn't. And they respected me for it. And all you need to do is let them know what your standards are. You don't like for somebody to come up and massage your neck. You don't like for somebody to come up and say, "What's wrong with you, buddy?" or whatever it is. Because you don't, they're only doing it because you act like you did it. But if you are strong and you appear to be strong, then nobody will do that to you.
They ought to feel hands off.
Unless you have set the stage for them to open the door for that to happen. And if you have, then you've got to figure out how to do it. Your mind knows how to do it. What you want to do is get it straightened out. There's one thing, if I can remember what it was. I can't remember what we're talking